Hello, my name's Audrey and I'm wearing this because I can. Uh, my project was biodiversity focused, and you know biodiversity, you know it, you love it, it's very good. Species richness being the total number of species in an area, and species evenness displaying whether or not there's dominance by a particular species. And invasive species disrupt biodiversity because they crowd out native plants. They take their water, their soil nutrients, their resources, and they end up dominating an ecosystem and disrupting food chains and overall stability of the ecosystem. So in San Diego, some of the invasive species that I dealt with were fennel, castor bean, and fountain grass, and they are the devil. The native plants that I was putting in included laurel sumac, bush mallow, lemonade berry, sage, and buckwheat. Another problem surrounding biodiversity here is that bikers on the trails decide to make their own trail through the vegetation and completely plow through it and destroy whole areas that are not supposed to be trails. So the work I did for my project was basically on different days hauling out invasive plants and then planting native plants to restore the vegetation in Del Mar Mesa and the Rancho Penasquitos Preserve. That involved hauling the water and plants to that area down trails, physically cutting and digging out invasive plants and then properly disposing of them so they couldn't seed, and then also digging holes and planting the new plants and watering them and making little rock enclosures to protect them. And to record this, I had a time log that was signed by a ranger, and I basically did my whole project before Corona happened, which was nice, I suppose. I also took quite a few pictures, both of the piles of invasive plants that I murdered and of the babies that I put in. So the environmental impact of vegetation restoration is that it provides a habitat for birds and insects. Birds especially, there are endangered birds that live in the Rancho Penasquitos Preserve area, and they can't make their homes with the invasive plants, but they do need some of the native plants that we put back in. It also acts as food for animals, both native and otherwise, when they come and attack our new baby plants. That's not great. And then also it allows trails that are out of use or that were never supposed to be used, that were created by bikers. It allows those areas to recover, and when that area becomes more densely vegetated, it's less likely that people are going to keep plowing through it. What I really took away from this project was the importance of keeping invasive species away from natural areas in the first place, ideally not planting them at all in your own yard, because seeds can go through the air and then start destroying the chaparral preserve. It's much better to plant native plants because you'll get butterflies and it will help the native animals. African fountain grass is one thing that's super commonly used. It's really common in the landscaping for the schools, and it's great, it's drought tolerant, but it's terrible for when it escapes and then starts just spitting seeds all over the place in the parks. Please plant native plants, please do it. That was what I really took to heart out of this whole thing, is the amount of labor put in to eradicating invasive plants that could have been avoided if they were just never planted in the first place. But one of the more fun things that I learned was about vernal pools, because in the Del Mar Mesa Preserve that we were going through a lot, it was during the season where the vernal pools on the trails fill up with water and they get some vegetation in there, they get endangered fairy shrimp in there, and it just looks pretty cool. I would recommend this project if you're looking for something very structured and very physical. It basically knocked me out for each weekend that I did it. It would be 3 to 4 hours of work at a time, and then for the rest of the day I could just like lay on the couch. And I wouldn't feel bad about doing that, but all my energy was gone. So if you're not looking for something that intense, I would probably add more of a white collar component, some sort of advocacy, or raising awareness besides just the physical removing invasive species and planting native plants. So the next steps in this project would probably be to do that white color component to raise awareness. You'd want to put in more signage at trails to just really hammer into people that you must stay on the trail. It's so important. You are not John Muir, I know, I'm sorry. You have to stay on the trail. You can't just go roughing it by yourself. It's just not how things work anymore. Another thing that could help is having native plant displays or information available at nurseries and garden shops like Armstrong to encourage people to buy native plants as opposed to other ones that they might not even know are non-native or invasive. And then one thing that I could personally start doing is giving out seeds for native plants, giving out seeds or seedlings as gifts to encourage people to plant the kind of plants that are going to help the biodiversity around here. All right, so that was my project.